Okay, welcome to language for Friday, February 19th. And we will be doing page 121 today. 121. So you need to find language page 121 from your folder. And we are going to start with reviewing for the quiz. So we would have taken the quiz today, but of course we can't. So we'll take it when we're back in school again. And let's start with reviewing our contractions, because the first thing that's going to be on the quiz is the contractions. Alright, so reminding you that when not is the second word, you will write all of the first word, and then not becomes N apostrophe T. Okay? There are two tricky ones. This one right here, won't and can't. And I'm going to be reviewing those with you on my little board in just a moment. But this is when not is the second word. It is always the second word that becomes the contracted form, okay, where you're taking out part. In the case of this, taking out the O. So that's where your apostrophe goes, where you took out the letter. So instead of N-O-T, it's N apostrophe T with the missing O. All right? Then, if the word R is the second word, you're going to do apostrophe R-E, because you're taking out the A, and where the A is taken away, that's where the apostrophe goes. That is when the word R is the second word. When the word have is the second word, you're going to take away the H and the A, and that's where the apostrophe goes, so it's apostrophe V-E. Okay? If the word is the second word, you're going to take out the I, so that's where the apostrophe goes, apostrophe S. Some people confuse this with possessives, because you take a noun and add an apostrophe S to it to make it possessive. But in this case, it is a contraction for is. He is, she is, it is, and that is. Right? Then, we already did have, didn't we? Will. Okay? Taking away the WI, so that's where the apostrophe goes. Apostrophe LL for will being the second word. Okay? Then, I want to look at the little board, because I've written some contractions on it, and we're going to talk about. Alright, so the first one I wrote is that tricky one I was talking about. The word will not. Okay? You would think, write will, and then N apostrophe T, and that would make willant. That's not right. Will not. I will not go with you. I won't. Alright, so W-O-N apostrophe T. Will not becomes won't. That is why it is a little tricky. Okay? Two words, will not becomes won't. You just need to get it memorized. Okay? That's why it's tricky. Alright, then cannot is tricky because the word cannot is one word. Instead of being two words like all the other contractions, cannot is just one word. And so it might get a little confusing, but you're just going to do one N. Instead of the two N's like you see in cannot, you're going to do one N apostrophe T. C-A-N apostrophe T. The tricky part is that if you were changing it from can't back to, you're not changing it back to two words, you're changing it back to one word, cannot. Okay? The next one we have is that is. So, like I've been telling you, write all of the first word. So just go ahead and write all of that. And think about, how do we make is be a contraction? Apostrophe S. Because you're taking away the I. Okay? You're taking away the I. My S got away from me. Alright? The next one I have on the board is you have. So the first thing you're going to do is just go ahead and write all of the first word, you. And then think about the word have. What do we say you do? Oh, you're going to take away the HA. And you're just going to keep the VE. So you're going to put apostrophe VE. Alright, the last one I have is should not. So again, you'll write all of the first word. So just go ahead and write all of should. And then you need to think, what do I do for not? N apostrophe T, because you're taking away the O. So N apostrophe T, shouldn't. And that got a little crowded there, but hopefully you can see. All right, then we want to do a little bit of oral talk, because this is again about the quiz. Remember, your subject and your verb are supposed to agree. So if your subject is singular, you're going to use the singular verb. And if the subject is plural, you're going to use the plural verb. And we're going to look at our little chart. These are our helping verbs. Am, is, are, was, were, had, has, have. That's how we learn them. But the am, the is, the was, the has, they are all singular, used with singular. I is only used with am, the word I. Okay, but is, was, and has, the ones end in a S, are used with a singular subject. Are, were, and have are used with a plural subject, although we did learn the word I and the word you always go with have, right? I have, okay, even though I is singular. And if you were going to say I am going, you would say, but I have gone is what you would say. You wouldn't say I has gone. Okay, so this one's just an exception to the rule when you use I with it. And then had is used with singular or plural. All right, so I'm going to say some, and you need to think of whether it is correct or not. Okay, Wesley and I aren't coming. Wesley and I aren't coming. Well, Wesley isn't coming. I am not coming. But if you say Wesley and I, that becomes plural. So aren't is the correct one to use. Very good. We haven't left yet. We haven't left yet. We is plural and haven't is plural. So that one is also correct. The trip we're taking so long. Trip is singular. Trip. Trip were taking? No. The trip was, because was is used with singular. All right, what about this one? Dr. Warner have been late. Dr. Warner is singular, so you need to use has been late. All right, very good. All right, another thing I want to talk to you about today is writing really good sentences. Okay, so we're going to talk about the sentence on the board, but we're also going to talk about if you were writing a story and you just simply said Oliver and his dad shoveled the snow. That does get the point across, but it is not a really descriptive sentence. So we're going to be talking about really descriptive sentences. All right, so I have written on the board a different version of Oliver and his dad shoveled the snow. I wrote last Tuesday, which actually tells us when they shoveled the snow. Oliver and his dad shoveled huge piles of white snow off their driveway. All right, so that gives you much more information if you're writing a story, okay, to tell when it happened and that you know it was huge piles, so it had snowed a lot. And where were they shoveling it? Their driveway. All right, if I just said Oliver and his dad shoveled snow, that didn't tell me when, it didn't tell me where, it didn't tell me how much. But in this nice descriptive sentence up here, last Tuesday, Oliver and his dad shoveled huge piles of white snow off their driveway. All right, white's just a little extra because we know that snow is white, but it's just showing that it can be super descriptive. Now, when you look at that sentence, let's talk about some things like, well, what kind of sentence is it? Declarative, yes, it is declarative, and that is why it ends with a punctuation of a period. The other thing that a lot of you are still forgetting is that all sentences begin with what? Yeah, a capital letter. I have checked several papers recently where you guys wrote sentences, and several of you, I mean, too many of you, it shouldn't be this many. This was what we learned the first week of school, and I know they teach it in first grade and in second grade. Need to start your sentences with a capital letter. Every time you write a sentence, it should be starting with a capital letter. Okay, another thing is, what is the verb? Last Tuesday, Oliver and his dad shoveled huge piles of white snow driveway. So what's the verb? Shoveled. Very good. Can you huge? No, you can't huge. No. Shoveled. Shoveled. So shoveled is verb. And what's your subject? Ooh, look at that. We have a compound subject, don't we? Who shoveled? Oliver. Dad. Very good. Oliver and Dad. They both shoveled. All right, notice we have several words that are capitalized. All right, first of all, the beginning of the sentence was, we already talked about that, but also we have Tuesday that is capitalized. Tuesday and Oliver. Tuesday because we learned the rule, days of the week, months of the year, but not the seasons. We also learned that you capitalize names, or you could say the rule, particular persons, places, or things. Okay, proper nouns need to be capitalized. So that's why Oliver is capitalized, because we learned two rules that fit that. Names or particular persons, places, or things. All right, let's just talk about any other nouns that are in the sentence. All right, so Tuesday would be a noun because we learned that all our time words are nouns, like second, minute, hour, day, week, month, year. Tuesday, February, all those are nouns. Then, of course, Oliver will be. We just talked about that. That's a proper noun. What else? Dad. Very good. Since dad is also the subject, dad is definitely a noun because your subject's going to be a noun usually. What about piles? Okay, piles of laundry, piles of snow, piles of wood. Okay, so that's a noun. That's a particular thing, right? Snow. Yes, very good. Snow can be a verb, but when you're talking about the actual snow, that's a noun, right? Huge piles of snow, okay? And one more. Driveway. Very good. Driveway. So driveway is also a noun. That's the last one. All right, let's go ahead and begin our paper now. All right, the first thing we're going to do on a paper is review dividing the sentence and then 2 lines under the verb, 1 line under the subject. All right, so let's look at that first sentence. It says, after lunch, the excited students enjoyed the silly monkeys. All right, so where are we going to draw the line? I hope you did not say after lunch, because the action here is what? The verb. Enjoyed. Did lunch enjoy anything? No, it's not. Who enjoyed? Students. So therefore you need to remember it's going to go after students. So draw the line after the word students. If you already drew it after lunch, then you need to fix it. You should have drawn after lunch the students. Draw the line, the excited students. So draw the line after the word students. Excited is just an adjective describing what the students were. They were excited. Okay? Draw the line after students and the verb, which is enjoyed, gets 2 lines. Nice, neat lines. And who enjoyed? Students. Very good. So 1 line under students. All right, let's read the next sentence. At the Australia Zoo, visitors have fed a zebra. All right, some of you, and it might be drawing that line after Australia Zoo. But what's the verb? What's the action here? Have fed, right? That's the only action you can see. So you should be saying, can the Australia Zoo have fed anything? No, it was the visitors that did that. So, therefore, the line should not be going after Australia Zoo. It needs to go after visitors, right? So, what is our verb? Have fed. Draw the line after visitors. Underline have fed 2 times. Who have fed? Visitors. Visitors gets 1 line. That is the way you could always check yourself. Those of you that keep drawing these random lines and just underlining anything, ask yourself, did this person do that, or did this thing do that? If you cannot say yes, then that is not your subject and that is not your verb. Your subject is who is doing it, and your verb is what they're doing. Or it could be a non-action verb in some cases. All right, number 3, Henry has watched the crocodile and reptile show. All right, this one's pretty easy. Just 1 word, so you know you're going to put it after Henry, right? Because then you have your verb already, which is has watched. That's something you can do. So underline has watched twice. Who watched it? Henry. So underline Henry once. The next one says, Ella saw a bright red parrot. Another easy one again. All right, so you already see that verb is saw. Okay, something you can do, saw, and who saw? Ella. So draw the line after Ella, underline the word saw 2 times, and who saw? Ella. So underline Ella 1 time. Next sentence is another tricky one. The very large and very old tortoises interested Thomas. All right, so this one is a little tricky. The very large and very old tortoises interested Thomas. All right, so where is the very first noun that you get to? Is large a noun? No, that's a descriptive word. Is old a noun? No, that's another descriptive word. Those are adjectives describing tortoises. Very good. Tortoises is the very first noun you get to, so that must be our subject. The others are adjectives and adverbs. Adverbs can also describe adjectives. So large and old are adjectives describing this tortoises. Very describes large, and the other very describes old. Those are adverbs describing the adjectives. All right, so draw the line after tortoises. If you already drew it somewhere else, you need to erase it and fix it. And then what was the verb? Interested. Tortoises interested. All right. Interesting is an adjective, but interested is a verb. Okay. So interested gets 2 lines, and who interested? The tortoises interested. All right, now for the next one, we're going to write the past tense of the verb. These are the kind that change entirely. And I've got to find my eraser. Ah, yes, I put it up there because I'm going to use my little board. All right, let's read the first one. It says, Joseph teach his brother to play basketball. Now, we learned a long time ago that when you make the past tense, you're going to add D or ED. But we learned that there are some verbs that change entirely. So, does it make sense to say Joseph teached his brother to play basketball? I hope you don't think it makes sense. If you do, then you've been saying it wrong so much that it sounds okay to you. You should be saying Joseph taught. Very good. The past tense of teach is taught. And that would be spelled with an A-U. Okay? T-A-U-G-H-T. Taught. All right. The next one says, Daniel write a letter to his grandma. Okay? Right now you write, that's present tense, but in the past, Daniel, this is another one that would change. You would not say writed. Daniel writed a letter? No. Daniel wrote. Hopefully you were saying wrote. Daniel wrote a letter. In the past, he wrote. W-R-O-T-E. Wrote. All right, and the last one says, we learn to play a new game at recess. So right now we learn, but in the past we learned. That one you can just add ed to. So just go ahead and write the word learn and add an ed. Learned. We learned. Okay, so that's the only one that followed the rule. The others were exceptions to the rule. All right, the next thing we're going to do is practice some contractions. Okay, so this will be helpful for the quiz. Practice for the quiz that we're going to be taking when we come back. All right, so number 1 says, you will not be warm if you do not wear a coat today. Do you remember that one? That was the tricky one. Will not. Will you say willn't? You willn't be warm? No, that's the one where you had to change it to won't. I hope that's what you were saying. And I hope you spelled it W-O-N''T. Will not becomes won't. Okay? W-O-N''T. All right, the next one is, He cannot carry that heavy box. That was the other tricky one. Notice cannot is just one word. It's all together as one word. So you don't put two N's. You just spell it C-A-N apostrophe T. Like that. C-A-N apostrophe T. All right, the next one says Mr. Carlton was not on time. All right, those are the only two tricky ones. So just write all of the first word. So write all of was. And then for the word not, N apostrophe T. Very good. So you would do that. Was, all of was, W-A-S. And then not becomes N apostrophe T. The next one says, I wonder who is going to help set up chairs. I wonder who is. All right, the rule is to write all of the first word. So write all of who. And then when you have is, what are you supposed to do? Apostrophe S. So you've written all of the word who, W-H-O, and then for the is, you change it to apostrophe S. Very good. Last one says, Jesus told the disciples that they should not worry. All right, what's the rule? Write all of the first word. So write all of should. And then for not, N apostrophe T. Very good. And so it comes out to be shouldn't with an N apostrophe T. All right. Do not be adding an extra E in there just because you think you hear an E when you say shouldn't. It's not there. Follow the rule. All the first word, not, is always going to become N apostrophe T. All right, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to make the subject and the verb agree. So again, this is practice for the quiz that you're going to be taking. All right, so the first one says the Bible is or are God's word. All right, Bible is singular, so you need to use is. The Bible is. Very good. So copy the word is on that line. Number 2 says, my parents is or are kind. All right, parents with an S, so that's plural, so you're going to say my parents are. Very good. Parents are. Number 3, the mountain goat was or were climbing on the big rocks. All right, it says mountain goat. Goat is singular, so you want to use the singular was. Very good. The mountain goat was climbing. All right, now number 4, the firefighters wasn't or weren't able to visit us this year. Actually, they were, weren't they? But anyway, oh, I just gave you the answer. Firefighters is plural, so you want the plural weren't. Weren't. And that is the negative form of it, like a contraction, were not. Okay, so write weren't. I hasn't or haven't finished reading that book yet. All right, you might think I is singular, but remember this is the tricky one because even though I is singular, I always goes with have, right? We learned that. So you're going to say I haven't. I hasn't finished reading that book. That doesn't even sound right to me. Hopefully it doesn't sound right to you. Hopefully you haven't been saying it wrong all this time. But I always goes with have. Have or haven't. In this case, it's haven't. All right, number 6. Hopefully I'm not going too fast. Number 6, Mr. Taylor has or have asked me to help him next Saturday. All right, so Mr. Taylor is singular, so you need the singular has. Mr. Taylor has. One more. Tomorrow isn't or aren't my birthday. Tomorrow is singular, so you need the singular isn't. Very good. Tomorrow isn't. All right, I want you to take your pencil and I want you to circle the page number at the bottom, 121. Okay, that's what I want you to do. Just circle it with your pencil. All right, and I will see you for the next subject, which is going to be history.